Hello and welcome back to CrowdProperty.com. Today we're going up to Scotland and to a Ravensheugh Road, Musselburgh, EH21 7PP for the Phase 2 raise. Now, CrowdProperty is a peer-to-peer lending platform designed to facilitate loans between private individuals and professional property businesses. CrowdProperty is authorised and regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority under permission number 723959. CrowdProperty is not covered by the Financial Services Compensation Scheme. There are risks with any loans you make, and just like all peer-to-peer lending, your capital is at risk. CrowdProperty endeavours to protect all lenders. This is done by registering the legal first charge against the property project. This means in the very unlikely event of borrower default on the loan, CrowdProperty will be able to take ownership of the project and manage it for the lenders. So let me then introduce you to the borrower on this particular project. It's owned by LPH Musselburgh Limited. Their company number is SC608695, and the borrower is Andrew Montague. I'm delighted to say he's joining us on this webinar. Welcome along, Andrew. Start off, please, by telling us a little bit about you and your background.
I've been based in Scotland for 25 years and originally from London, but have been in property development since 2003. Been very active before the recession and more importantly after the 2009 recession that feels like a million years ago considering where we are in the current crisis. I've been involved with a range of developments from a 130 bedroom hotel in Edinburgh city centre to large affordable housing projects throughout Scotland and indeed down in England and Kent, be it commercial to residential conversions or new build, where I will essentially take over the entire project from scratch, secure the site, obtain planning, negotiate a build contract, all the way through to handing over the keys to the end user. Mrs. Foreman's Lodge and Ravensheugh Road is a pet project of mine. I've had the site for a while, and really delighted to see it coming out the ground, especially as I said earlier, within these current climate. We've been able to mobilize the team really quickly, have some good secured COVID marshals in place, and everyone around us is mobilized, and we've even got out the ground, and hopefully by the end of next week, we'll have the 2 stories in kit format completed.
Well, let's find out a little bit more about who Mrs. Foreman is, and let's look then about this project. It involves the development of 2 new build flats, and with this being the second raise of 3 for £150,000, CrowdProperty has agreed a total loan facility of £500,000, with the contracted end date set for the 25th of August 2021. Lenders are going to receive 8% per annum interest equivalent and rolled up. It's going to be paid back at the end of the loan term. So let's then go into looking at the area. Tell us a little bit more then about the locality.
Ravensheugh is actually a very small district just out to the south of Musselburgh. The site itself has got a lot of historical background. It was owned by a lady, or built by a lady in the early 1800s called Mrs. Foreman, who set it up as an inn to provide actually golf people in the area. But because it is literally adjacent to what is deemed to be the oldest golf course in the world, there's a story she used to serve the golfers on the 9th hole beers through the side window, which we own the cottage ourselves, and we retained that when we converted the property from an inn into a house, 4-bedroom house. In addition to that, the site itself overlooks Musselburgh Racecourse, and as you'll see later on in the presentation, the situation of the building means that there's no road in between us. We're in a private walled garden, and all front windows literally overlook the golf course and the racecourse. It's a fantastic view.
Now, planning permission has been granted by the East Lothian Council. That's to build 2 flats under their planning reference 18/00384/P. The property lies on the site. It's about 0.19 acres. The loan end date is the 25th of August 2021. This means that this phase 2 raise is for approximately 13 months. Remember, it will be first charge secure to protect the investors on this project, The exit strategy is that the borrower is going to sell the flats upon completion. Here is the map then showing where the CrowdProperty flag is. As you can see, it backs onto that racecourse, and indeed in the middle of that racecourse is a golf club as well. Here's a little bit more for you about the location. It fronts onto Ravensheugh Road, backs onto the Royal Musselburgh Golf Course. Town centre is just over a mile away. It's 2 miles from the City of Edinburgh bypass, about a mile from the Wallingford train station. And other local interests of primary care centres. There's all the usual shops and banks, as you would imagine. The Leavenhall Links Leisure Park is about a mile away as well. And there are various churches in the locality too. So here's the proposed developments. Tell us then what you're wanting to do here, Andrew.
The site itself is built within a walled garden. We are, which was obviously the former beer garden of the pub. We've got direct views out onto the ninth hole and obviously the north part of the racecourse. It's a 2-story, what I'm calling a boutique apartment, 2 apartments in the block, all within a gated entrance, completely enclosed. Would it suit people who are downsizing? Potentially, but because of the location and the views and the fact that we've got the links literally just opposite us, there's plenty of scope for who the market is. We've restricted it to 3 decent sized bedrooms, focusing on the master bedroom, giving it a dressing room as well as the ensuite, making that the primary focus of the house. The living area we've kept as open plan, kitchen, living room, dining room, simply because there's no need to box off these areas anymore. But I think people enjoy a far more open plan living these days rather than, here's my separate dining room, etc., etc. So I think the design works really well. And of course, we're surrounded by private gardens that will only be for the use of the people in the apartment.
We've got some floor plans to show in just a few moments. I love this name, Foreman's View and Foreman's Green, of course, presumably relating to the beautiful views and the fact it's got a green racecourse and a green of the golf course just outside. Correct. And you mentioned this is mostly aimed at downsizers. That's who's going to be buying it. How secure do you think those estimated GDV prices are?
Well, we've actually had them increased by the agents. DJ Alexander are marketing the site, and through their own persuasion have suggested that the overall GDV is going to be more like 900,000 for the property. So we're going to keep that under our hat. It gives us a lot of scope for negotiation. So I'm more than happy with the fact that we'll beat that 800. Will we get as much as 9? That would obviously be nice, but midway would be a fantastic win.
So the independent monitoring surveyor has been out. They came on the 29th of June 2020. That inspection verified that the ground beam and floor slab had been completed, along with the previously completed excavation and piled foundations. The timber frame had also arrived on site, with its installation having commenced since the inspection took place. The borrower then is going to continue to build the timber frame and upper floors before moving on to assembling the roof. And the independent monitoring surveyors have verified there's been £150,328 worth of works going on. There's the construction photos at the bottom. And talk us through this modern type of construction, Andrew.
So we're using a timber kit build from a company in just outside of Aberdeen called D-Side Timber. The kit arrives in panel sections, as you can see. I think what's really cool, though, if you look at the third picture on the right, that represents your view on the ground floor out of your French windows at the French door windows at the north of the property, and that is your view. It's uninterrupted. It's over golf and race course, which means no one will ever build in front of you.
And then we've got some computer generated images here of the front and the rear elevations of the property. You can see very clearly on the right hand side those big windows that's going to have all of that view.
Yeah, it's going to be fantastic. It's going to look beautiful.
And then looking on the inside, this is how it's going to be staged. Talk us through your ideas here.
So we are working with Scott and Gray Kitchens in Edinburgh to design us the sort of island-based kitchen. Timber floorings will be down to wood floors will be down to client specifications or carpets. We're working with the bathroom company who I've actually done a lot of development in Edinburgh, who've designed all our internal bathrooms as well. So we are still going to give client their own specification on what they're looking for, though. So we'll still keep that pretty open.
Here are the elevations. This is the south and the west elevations, looking at the windows that we've heard Andrew talking about. And then when we move on then to looking at the east and the west elevations, that's how those are going to look. Let's start to look at some of the floor plans of these flats. And indeed, this is flat 1. It's on the ground floors, 2-storey building, of course. Talk us through then this open plan layout you've got, Andrew.
As you can see, that the open plan kitchen and bathroom represents the biggest area of the house in one section. So we've tried to keep a lot of natural light as much as possible, that the planners would also allow us to retain into the property. So on both floors they're flooded with light. Yet at the same time we're using sustainable heat generating pumps for hot water and central heating, which is is obviously going to have a good positive impact on the carbon footprint of the property. For the upper floor, there's a private stairwell upstairs, so everyone's got their own front door, and obviously the very similar layout for the first floor property as there is for the ground floor.
Now, you've done other projects too as well, and this is number 2, Foreman's Lodge. Explain what then the significance of this property. You alluded to it at the start of today's webinar, but just tell us a little bit more about the story.
So although it's not a listed property, it has a lot of historical interest from worldwide golfers that we found out when we first went for planning consent. The property had literally been a pub for 180 years in some description or another. But sadly, over the last 10 years prior to us buying it, it had changed leasehold ownerships multiple times. And obviously, I think the effect of an establishment had really finished. So when we bought it, there was an upstairs manager's section, which was accessed through a private external staircase, which we've actually retained. There is also an annex to the right of the property, to the east side of the property, which we actually removed, but we kept the famous golfer's window where Mrs. Foreman served her beers to the golfers too. Downstairs, what's really interesting, because it is a Victorian property, but it was a pub, we retained the open plan of the entire site, so you can actually sweep around from the kitchen, which you can see in that bottom image, all the way round to the living room on the other side of the property. But that's part of the finish that we did for that site.
Let's then come back to this particular project, and here's an overview of the project financials and the proposed loan. So this is the phase 2 of 3, which is for £150,000 of that total facility of £500,000. RICS have verified the current market value at £170,000. That's prior to the commencement of the works. And the gross development value is valued as verified at £800,000. The estimated construction costs is £434,560, with the principal contractor back on site and driving the construction programme forward to ensure the project is delivered on time. That initial drawdown was for £100,000. The remaining loans can be drawn in stages upon the completion of the independent monitoring surveyors reports. Initial loan to value 58.8%. The amount excluding the rolled up interest based on that gross development value is 62.5%. And then when you add in the interest at the 8% going long term is 69.7%. Remember, the contracted loan end date is 25th of August 2021, and it's about 30 months on this particular phase. This phase is targeted to start on the 24th of July 2020. Remember, the exit strategy is that the borrower is going to sell the units on the open market upon their completion, with lenders receiving 8% per annum interest. It's paid at the end of the loan term, and first charge security will be put in place to protect investors on this project. So the next steps then are to make sure that you understand this loan, carry out your own due diligence both on the developer and on this project, then decide how much you would like to lend. CrowdProperty.com is the place to be to pledge on launch. The necessary anti-money laundering checks will be carried out, and then you'll be invited to send your funds to your own online e-wallet, and you'll start earning that interest on completion of the loan agreement. So this is the phase 2, which is to raise £150,000 for 2A Ravensheugh Road, Musselburgh, E821 7PP. Thank you for watching this webinar. We look forward to you joining us again soon back here at crowdproperty.com.